Welcome to Implant Outlook, a podcast dedicated to the implant printing industry. Today, I'm lucky enough to be talking with John Cruser, Global Manager of Bloomberg Inc. Print Services, and one of the friendliest guys I know. John's been at Bloomberg since 1992, and in fact, he was the first and only implant employee back then, running a DocuTech. Today, he oversees an award-winning operation near Princeton, New Jersey, as well as 4 other Bloomberg implants around the world. So welcome, John.
Hey, Bob. How you doing, my friend? Nice seeing you.
Yeah, it's good to see you and great to talk to you. I appreciate you being here with us today. And we've known each other for a few years now, and I've always loved the story of when you started there, your showdown with a commercial printer back in your early days at Bloomberg when you were hired to print the weekly oil and gas industry reports in-house.
Correct.
And then the commercial printer who had been printing them on an offset press challenged you. Remind me of that story.
Yeah, so Bloomberg was at the time paying a guy once a week to run his shop all night to produce what would be an oil buyer's guide and natural gas report. So when the market closed on Thursday at 4 o'clock, the editors would write stories, and then the data of whatever happened in the market, there would be an insert that would cover that data. So they realized that, well, hey, we're spending a lot of money here. We could probably invest in this machine. At the time, DocuTech is a fairly new technology. It wasn't a copier. It was a digital printer. So Bloomberg invested in one of those and hired me to come work for them. And my only job was to do that. In the very beginning, that's all they wanted me to do. So leading up to it, they were setting the room up. We were going through that. The vendor got wind that they were going to end services. So he started putting in. My manager said, "You're really going to let this kid run this by himself? I have this whole company, blah, blah, blah." He got my boss nervous. So my boss said, "Well, here's what we're going to do. He's going to run it and you're going to run it." And I said, "Okay." So I got the files around 6 o'clock at night. I worked through the night. And by 8 o'clock in the morning, I was ready. And sure enough, he come walking through the door about 8:30 and says, "Oh, here you go." And so he disappears to go upstairs to get his bagel and coffee. So I take one of mine and I wrote on the back of it and I said DocuTech, and I put it down. And just as I set it down, the vendor came walking in and walked right between us, grabbed mine and said, "This is true offset." And I flipped it over and I said, "That's DocuTech." The guy just walked right out of there and I never saw him again. So I didn't have to really put it to a vote.
Well, it's a great way to start things off for your implant there. And you were just one guy back then with a DocuTech. How did you manage to grow the implant into the large operation it is today?
So I had nothing really to do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I was the guy going around and fixing keyboards. Right. If somebody's keyboard was shot, I would run over to their desk and replace the keyboard with a new keyboard. And as I started meeting people, I started saying, "I can do this. Oh, I can do that. I can do that." And then I was telling my manager, and he says, "Well, stop replacing keyboards and go start meeting with people and start figure out where you can add value." And at the time, there was a lot of corporate items that I could help keep the company running with. And it just started to grow. And once our marketing team and I started connecting, it just started spiraling. There were so many opportunities. In the very beginning, it was really supporting the internal business. But today, I still do that, but very little. I mean, stationery, letterhead, things like that. Now our team's so focused on events and helping our core sales team that, we do a lot of events. So when you come into an area where there's an event, we do everything from tabletops to vinyls to 19-foot boards that are backdrops behind stages. And so it's all about the brand and the name. And so we're 100% focused on ensuring that we're supporting our salespeople.
Yeah, that's really what you have to do as an implant. You got to look for more opportunities and expand. If you're just doing stationery, then, sorry, but you missed something there.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your main printing devices today?
So we have a variety of things. The Indigo is a big part of what we do. We have Ricoh, a number of different vendors when it comes to wide format roll machines, but we also have a Swiss Q. On the bindery side, we have the Esco, a lot of Duplo products, but ultimately the core main things are really Indigo and Ricoh that are producing most of our volumes.
Yeah, it's probably changed even since I was there. And your implant is one of the best perks of any implant anywhere, as I know, and that's that on-site cafeteria where you get free breakfast and lunch, and I've enjoyed that on my visits there. How do you keep from overeating?
Well, the best part about it is there's a ton of healthy options, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, my day is typically a salad. I have a salad,
Yeah.
soup and salad. But ultimately, if you think about it, if when you're here and if you try to go out for lunch, it's going to take you over an hour to really go
Mm,
out, get what you need to come back.
right.
Where you could go right around the corner, grab what you need. It's going to take you about 12 to 15 minutes to eat. And then most of us are just hit the floor running again and you're back working again, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a pretty decent perk and helps us, but at the same time, I think the company has realized it helps productivity as
Yeah.
well, and it is a very big morale booster. Everybody loves it. And I think most of us are extremely appreciated. I know compared to my peanut butter and jelly days back when I worked at Princeton, it's definitely a lot
Yeah.
better than those days. That's for
Yeah. Well, it's certainly a unique thing for an implant.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Now I know, and another unique thing is that you oversee other implant locations around the world. Where are those locations and how big are they?
So we have a location in London, in Tokyo, and in Hong Kong.
Must be a lot of challenges managing people on the other side of the world in different time zones. What are
You,
some of those
well,
challenges?
first of all, they're just amazing people, right? So we have a huddle every morning, and London's always on that call. So we're very close with London. So we have like an early morning huddle, and everybody gets in, talks about what needs to get out the door today, how many shipments, what are the concerns, whether we're going to be able to meet some deadlines. I'm usually in around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
I have my APAC meeting at 6. And then we have every 2 weeks, we have a managers meeting. And that's usually 9 o'clock at night on a Wednesday for me. They're always there. And one guy in Tokyo, I just love him to death. I'll be sitting there, it's like almost 1 o'clock in the morning, my time, and I'll get an email from him. And I'm like, what are you still doing up? Go to bed. The energy and drive that London, Hong Kong, and Tokyo bring is just inspiring because, again, it reminds me of when I was alone sitting at that desk, right?
yeah.
So they're just very motivated, and they get a lot of that from the Jersey people here. When they talk to them, the Jersey people are just as motivated, and it's all about the team. It really comes down to that. Clearly, if you have a bad person and it's in another region, it can be a lot of problems, but we just have incredible people.
Now, your background wasn't in printing, right? You kind of
Yeah.
fell into it by chance.
So every man in my family, my grandfather was a plumber, my father was an electrician, my cousin's a carpenter, and I was going to be a carpenter.
Yeah.
So the high school that I went to when I was 14, they had their own tech on site.
Right.
And so I started out on the carpentry side. And I remember that my freshman year was coming around, I guess the holidays, and there was nothing to do. So he said, hey, the printing guy next door needs help. And I knew him. He was a wise guy. He always picked on me on the time, and I liked him. So I went over there and I said, what do you need help with? And back in the day, they're all AB Dicks. None of them had covers on them. And they all had rubber bands and paper clips keeping things together. And he's there trying to get this AB Dick to run envelopes. And it was really struggling. And he had a class sitting there. So he had to go teach. So he says to me, listen, you're good at tinkering or stuff. I need these envelopes to start running. Okay, I can give him the run, but I knew nothing about how to keep the right coverage and stuff like that. So I got it to run. And next thing you know, the following day, I had to go back there again and again. And next thing you know, I'm like, I guess I'm not a carpenter anymore. I'm going to be a printer. I ended up being there. And then that summer, I started working for him. And, I haven't stopped. So I don't think I've been unemployed since that day,
Oh boy.
So I've been working in the printing industry ever since then, when I was 14.
And then eventually you ended up at Princeton University, right? What did you do there?
Well, the funny part was the day I showed up, the night before, I'm goofing around with my friends and I broke my hand. And I show up being the delivery guy. I was supposed to make deliveries and I got a cast on my arm. And I show up the day one at Princeton with a cast on my arm. And I'm the guy that's supposed to drive around on campus and deliver packages. So the guy I was supposed to relieve the job of was a little upset with me that he had to hang out with me a little longer. But so I started out driving the van, and then when you're not driving the van, you were cutting paper, you were making pads, you were doing all the bindery work, folding, hand collating, stuffing envelopes, and things like that. And started out there and worked my way up to finally got a break on the presses when one of the press operators hit the lottery for $2.4 million. And I ended up moving to a 2-color Hamada, and then worked up to be senior pressman running the Heidelberg GTO. And that's when the lovely DocuTech showed up.
Ah, yes,
And
yes.
I wasn't about to let this thing beat me. And I couldn't get the solids and the halftones to match like they did. And then I was like, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And that's when I started working my way over to the DocuTech machine.
Yeah, well, you certainly made that work at Bloomberg, but I know also that at some point you did get offset equipment at Bloomberg, right? I think you got a Heidelberg Quickmaster.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I only had black DocuTech machines, and I wanted to do stationary work. So
Yeah.
we brought in a two-color Heidelberg, started doing that, worked our way up to eventually a five-color Sakurai with an
Yeah.
aqueous coater. And back then, we were doing a lot of orange, which, being working at Princeton, I was pretty good at understanding that color orange.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of that, and then the digital thing started to explode. And it turns out we couldn't afford that much time. We sold print on demand as our main product. And we were going to be able to provide what you need, because in the data industry, things change so quickly. You don't have 3 to 5 days to put it on the offset and then run it and then let it dry, cut it, and then fold it. By then the data's gone. So you needed basically almost same day. And that's when we started transferring towards more of the digital equipment. And that's when the Indigo showed up. And we found out that we didn't really need offset anymore. We stepped away from it. And then wide format went crazy. As most people in the industry know, man, wide format is it now,
Yeah. You better be in wide format if you're running an implant. Now, the quality of your implants work is very impressive. In fact, you've actually won the imprint contest Best of Show Award 3 times, and that's pretty incredible. So what does that say about the dedication of your staff to high quality?
It's amazing. I mean, they have an incredible eye, but they also have that creativeness that you would expect from a marketing person. So let's say you're on the marketing team and you're going to now do this event, they invite us to the table at the discussions when they're starting to plan the event.
Wow.
So we're throwing ideas back and forth, and we're like, well, what if we were to do this 6 praise brochure with this, and we want to do a die cut? And we're like, guys, I mean, why let's not, maybe we do a pocket fold instead. Why do we need to do a die cut? We could do the pocket fold, And so we work so closely together, and we start really challenging the marketing designers, because we can do certain things, and we have open houses and we have them come down. And once they sit and talk to the operators, and the operators start saying, I could do this, and I could do this aqueous, and I can do that, then it starts opening up the ideas. And once those juices start flowing, we start coming up with some amazing stuff. But it's all them, Bob. It's 100% the operators, that interaction with the marketing team, and that collaboration of wanting to blow the world apart and just come up with something amazing. And you can't teach that. You just cannot teach that. It's the passion that comes with people in our industry. And when you have that in your shop, you got the right people working for you. And they make me look amazing every day. And I'm so thankful I have the team that I have.
Yeah, that is great. It's awesome that the marketing department values your input so much that you're involved in the planning stages. That's the ideal situation for an implant to be in.
Yeah. I think in the early days, we have project planners. The planners really help bridge that gap of, so the planners are now being involved and saying, we got this big, huge event coming up. I'm going to need these 3 19-foot boards. I have 45 different type of wall vinyls that we need to get out the door. And then we start panicking. We're like, whoa, wait, where did this come from? We didn't know nothing about this. Well, now that you bridge that gap and you have your planners at the table with them, you now can start helping setting the timeline that will fit your needs. And it really works. And the operators are less stressed. The one thing I hated the most is I just set up the job and my manager comes up to me and says, I need to stop what you're doing. We got to rush. You got to do this right now. I need this today by 3 o'clock. God, I just set this up. I was so pumped to get this going, and now I got to stop this and do something else. If you can avoid those, your team will be extremely successful and very profitable. I can't say we do it all the time, but I think we're doing a much better job than we were doing it 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah. I know at some point you told me that you had people doing quality inspections of each finished job. Is that still something you're doing?
Yep. We have managers and the planners. When we know it's something big for a senior leader, we do focus very hard. But even on the common jobs, I put it back on the operator. And I'm like, you all know, I've been in the industry forever. If this truly does not feel great to you, if you truly felt that you could do something better, it's up to you to highlight it. They work so hard to design something, and then they depend on us to deliver that, right? And if we can't deliver it at the level that they want, then we need to take a step back and figure out what can we do to fix it. And if we have time, let's fix it.
Yeah. Well, your dedication to quality continues, I know, because this year you won a gold, a silver, and 2 bronze awards in the Imprint 2025 contest, which actually is a partnership between Implant Impressions and the Implant Printing and Mailing Association. So you're not resting on your laurels at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's the whole team. They come together. What are we going to submit? And it's this
Yeah.
long table of everything. And you can only do this, and you only so many
Yep.
of these, right?
Yep.
And the real hard discussions
Discussions.
around, and they all got the loops, and they're all staring
Yeah.
at it, and people are raising their hand on which one they think should go. And so it's an event. Yeah.
And you have another IPMA connection too. You are IPMA's international president now since last August.
Yeah.
So the IPMA conference in June will be your first as president. Are you nervous?
No. I don't think I'm nervous. These people at the conferences, I mean, we're like family. Everybody's great, and you know me very well, Bob. And we've gone to some conferences together. If we're talking about printing, I have no issues. I can definitely talk about it. I love it dearly. It's been in my blood forever. The conference itself, wait till you see the Davenport Grand. When you walk into the Davenport, as soon as you check in, to the right, you got a restaurant and bar. To the left is the conference. We're all right in that area. We'll all be very close, and I'm excited about it. I really
Oh,
think that's
nice.
a
That'll be
beautiful
a big,
location.
big change. I remember last year in Des Moines, there was quite a walk to get to
Yeah,
the conference center.
not this year. Not this
Yeah.
year. It's and the vendors are going to be extremely. The vendors are literally right here. I mean, you can just take a step and you're in the main conference area, and then boom, you're right next to the vendors. It's going to be really great.
What's in store for attendees this year?
We have 3 keynote speakers. Dave from Mindfire is awesome. The tour of Empire Paper. All of us are dying to see things like that.
Yeah.
Vendor wise, well, I don't think we've had this many vendors coming to an event, and a lot of new ones, Bob. A lot of new people showing up at this event that we haven't seen before. So it's just great
Wow.
stuff. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
going to be
looking
huge.
forward to it as well. And it's in Spokane, which is a world away from New Jersey. What did you think of Spokane when you visited?
There's an incredible park nearby. The Riverfront Park is nearby. It's got an incredible water view. The hotel's in a very decent location where people can still get out and do a couple of cool things on their own. So yeah, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, John, you're one of the most outgoing and friendly implant managers I know. So it's no surprise that customer service is one of your top focuses at Bloomberg. So why is it important for an implant to have great customer service? I mean, shouldn't the convenience and cost savings just be enough to get departments to send their work?
Well, so convenience and cost savings. All right. So this is going to be a weird analogy, but you know, it's a Friday night. You don't know what you're going to do for dinner, and for convenience and cost savings, you go to a local Chinese restaurant and just pick up something. Well, how really great was that? What kind of service did you get from them?
Mhm.
How really good was the food? Right. By the end of the night, you regretted going. Right. And it was money that probably wasn't well spent. If you invest in customer service and you invest in quality, they're always going to come back. I'm not going to go back to that Chinese restaurant again.
Yeah.
Right. Because the person was just, here's your food, and out you went. Right. So this isn't a relationship where it's just, I'm going to see you Friday night and that's it. This is it. I've been here, I'll be 33 years in July, and I have some amazing people from day one that are still here, that are still very close customers of ours. And it's not like, oh, geez, John, how much are you going to charge me for that? Oh, this is so expensive. It's all about the project and what we can do to make the project better. So if you have great customer support and incredible quality, you build that long-lasting relationship, your products become better, and you better represent your organization. And that to me is so important. Yes, cost is important, right? And convenience. You try to be as convenient as you possibly can. So that to me is so important around customer service. And it's the way the company is. This is instilled with you. I wish I can explain the culture here. It's amazing how it's always about what you can do to help the customer and help somebody. This culture in this company is just phenomenal.
So in all the time that you've spent at IPMA conferences talking with your peers, what advice might you give them on how to better manage an implant? Is there anything that you see that maybe people should focus more on?
Well, my first couple years, I remember somebody standing up and said, well, sometimes you have to tell the customer what the power of no is.
Huh?
And, I think people need to understand that you're building a relationship here, and then saying no is never, ever, ever in your vocabulary.
Mm.
You can suggest many of different options to help still deliver what they're looking for. If you can't produce that product, you don't just say, "Nope, sorry, can't do it."
Yeah.
Well, you say, Well, we don't really have the equipment to do that, but let me tell you the things we can do, which I think are better options than what you're actually proposing.
Yeah.
And you just build those relationships. And I've heard every story from every small implant to the extremely large implants, and it's all around teamwork and communication. And I'm telling you, you have to get into IPMA. You have to go up and say hi to people. How are you? I'm John Cruser. I work at Bloomberg. Tell me about what you do and how did you get past COVID and how did you guys survive when we were in this supply chain shortage of paper? And you learn from their experiences, and it helps prevent you from being in a very bad experience later on. And I have some incredible colleagues out there that I admire a lot, and I really do admire them. And Mike Lincoln was a very good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was considering to be president, I was nervous. I wasn't sure if I was the right person to fit the role. And I remember reaching out to Mike Lincoln and saying, hey, what do you think? He says, do it. You'd be great. I'm like, yeah, but Mike, how would I be great? And he went on to just really give me some incredible encouragements. And he said, but no matter what, I will be there. And just as well, there's other colleagues of yours that you're close with will always be there for you. And you know what? That's just the way it is. Whether you're a president or just a person at this event, we're always going to be there for you. And I think a lot of members, if you're listening to me, whenever you're being challenged and you're in a difficult situation with leadership, when it's around budgets, around whether or not you're producing things a certain way, don't just sit on that. Reach out to membership. We've all been there. We can help you. We can explain how we went through that. Bloomberg treats me like an outside vendor, and I should be, right? I should be, because that keeps me on my feet. I don't get fat and happy and sit around and do nothing. It keeps challenging us to be better, and change is good. Change is a good thing. It makes us better. Take it from a guy who's been sitting here for 33 years. I don't like being challenged. Nobody likes being challenged. But in the end, when I'm done, I'm like, we did it. And it looks amazing, So I'm speaking to everybody out there who's listening. Please, if you have some concerns around what your team needs to do better, you have so many people in the industry willing to help you. That's what's great about IPMA.
Yep.
We share everything, right?
Yep. I've made so many friends over the years, just having conversations with people, as you have as well. Well, John, I look forward to seeing you there at IPMA, and it's been so great to talk with you today.
Yeah, so, and you're speaking too, right, Bob?
Yeah, I'm the opening speaker at breakfast on the first day.
So I'm looking forward to that, my friend. Always looking forward to hearing what you have to come up with. You've done so much, Bob. I can't thank you for how much you've done for the industry, and you're like the glue that keeps us together at times. And I really thank you for that as well.
Well, thank you, John. Well, appreciate your time here today, and we will be together soon in Spokane.
Yes, and for those of you who haven't signed up yet, come on, let's go, sign up. Let's get some people out there. You're going to have a great time.
Well, thank you, John.
Thanks, Bob. Take care of yourself, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the Implant Outlook Podcast.